3 U.S. troops were killed and at least another 34 wounded Sunday night in a drone attack on their living quarters in northeast Jordan, near the Syrian border, the U.S. Central Command reported. These are believed to be the first American military deaths from hostile fire during the nearly 4-month-long war between Israel and Hamas militants. U.S. President Joe Biden blamed Iran-backed militant groups operating in Syria and Iraq for the attack in Jordan. The 3 service members were not immediately identified, pending notification of their relatives. Biden called them patriots in the highest sense. Jordan earlier Sunday said the attack did not occur on its soil. However, later, the official Petra news agency said Jordan condemned the terrorist attack that targeted an outpost on the border with Syria, killing 3 U.S. soldiers and injuring others from the U.S. forces that are cooperating with Jordan in countering terrorism and securing the border. Jordanian government spokesperson Mohammed Mubaidin expressed condolences to the United States and said the attack did not result in any casualties among officers of the Jordan Armed Forces. Michael Pregent, a senior fellow at the Hudson Institute and an expert in Middle East and North Africa political and security issues, spoke with VOA's Persian service on Sunday. Now we have the death of 3 Americans and 25 injured, and the Biden administration needs to hit the individuals responsible for this. It needs to hit facilities inside of Iran, Pregent told VOA. This is the only way to get Iran to stop. I heard some information today from the Pentagon that this is Iran's attempt to bait us into a war with Iran, he said. No, Tehran doesn't want a war with the United States. But Tehran wants to use its proxies to push the United States out of the Middle East. But now a red line has been crossed and the United States needs to respond, Pregent said. The attack was one of a string of aerial assaults targeting U.S. troops stationed in the region amid the Israel-Hamas war in Gaza. While the United States has not engaged in the fighting in the narrow territory along the Mediterranean Sea, it has staunchly supported the Israeli effort and rebuffed the demands from some world leaders for an immediate ceasefire. U.S. officials said, however, they are close to reaching an agreement for a 2-month halt in the fighting and the release of the remaining 100 or so hostages held by Hamas in Gaza. The initial Hamas attack on Israel in October killed about 200 people, while Gaza officials say Israel's counteroffensive has killed more than 26,000 Palestinians, most of them women and children. Last night, 3 U.S. service members were killed, and many wounded, during an unmanned aerial drone attack on our forces stationed in northeast Jordan near the Syria border. A U.S. Defense Department official said some of the wounded sustained brain injuries that required medical evacuations to hospitals. Almost all of the U.S. Republican governors have signed on a statement backing Texas governors. Greg Abbott in his bitter fight against the federal government over border control. Vermont Governor Phil Scott is the only Republican governor who did not sign on to the statement to support Abbott. The statement released Thursday on the Republican Governors Association website criticized the Biden administration and said the state of Texas has the constitutional right to defend itself. This week, Texas officials in the Department of Homeland Security sparred over barbed wire along the Rio Grande. The U.S. Supreme Court ruled that federal agents can cut through the razor wire the state installed to deter people from crossing. We stand in solidarity with our fellow governor Greg Abbott and the state of Texas in utilizing every tool and strategy, including razor wire fences, to secure the border, the letter, signed by 25 Republican governors. Because the Biden administration has abdicated its constitutional compact duties to the states, Texas has every legal justification to protect the sovereignty of our states and our nation. UN weapons inspectors warn Iran already has atomic weapons, caution Biden admin not to escalate. Top Iran experts in the U.S. and in Israel are warning President Biden that his administration's strategy of de-escalation and containment targeting the world's worst state sponsor of terrorism, the Islamic Republic of Iran, has failed, and America needs to reestablish deterrence against Tehran as fears of the regime obtaining a nuclear device grow. Alarming reports about Iran moving at an astonishingly fast pace to possess a nuclear weapon have emerged since last month. The Biden administration's nuclear policy concerning Iran's nuclear program and its ability to acquire nuclear weapons is a complete disaster. Under the Biden administration's leadership, Iran has made significant advances in its nuclear program that surpassed the progress achieved under any previous administrations. In a noteworthy development, for the first time, the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, has issued a warning, signaling that Iran now holds a sufficient quantity of highly enriched uranium capable of producing multiple nuclear warheads. This development, reported by Bloomberg on January 18th, prompted IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi to denounce Iran's actions. Grossi also told the national newspaper, Iran is the only non-nuclear weapon state which is enriching uranium at this very, very high level. The remarks made by Grossi come in the wake of a concerning development in which Iran launched missile attacks into Pakistan. The missile strikes, viewed as a violation of both international norms and Pakistan's sovereignty, have added a new layer of insecurity to the already tense regional dynamics. The attacks on Pakistan also underscore the predatory character of the Iranian regime and its efforts to destabilize the region. The Iranian regime's lack of cooperation with the IAEA has been alarming for years, suggesting a trajectory toward the imminent acquisition of nuclear weapons and raises serious reservations about the transparency of Iran's nuclear activities. Grossi expressed concern that Iran is continuing actively to impede international efforts to scrutinize its nuclear program while accelerating its production of highly enriched uranium, bringing it dangerously close to weapons-grade levels. What motivates the regime's rush to obtaining nuclear weapons? Several factors. First, there is a lack of consequences from the Biden administration. Iran's regime feels free to expedite its nuclear ambitions without facing any repercussions. The regime is undoubtedly also aware that in 10 months or so, on U.S. Election Day, November 5th, this opportunity might close. As Andrea Stricker of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies wrote, Iran sprinting for nuclear weapons this year would be the capstone of the Biden-Sullivan foreign policy doctrine of letting our adversaries run the globe and pushing back only when it's too late or the situation becomes untenable. Congressman Mike Waltz accurately said in an interview with Fox News, this administration is so wedded to its appeasement de-escalation strategy that it's actually inviting escalation. Deterrence has completely fallen apart, and we see every one of our adversaries on the march because of it. And my fear between now and November is they're only going to accelerate because they see this as a moment of opportunity. Another contributing factor appears to lie in Iran's involvement in multiple conflicts. The regime has been actively supporting Hamas against Israel, providing assistance to Yemen's Houthi terror group to attack ships in the Red Sea, escalating tensions with Pakistan, and providing weaponry to Russia for use against Ukraine. These multifaceted engagements in regional and global conflicts indicate the regime's likely view of nuclear weapons as a means to further its strategic objectives. In the midst of these ongoing conflicts, the last thing we need is an aggressive regime with terrorist inclinations, and clearly no intention, despite every opportunity the West has given it, of coming in from the cold, possessing nuclear weapons. Rural voters are, mostly Trump voters, new poll shows, why Biden suffers outside cities. 4 years ago, cattle rancher J.D. Hill bucked his family's Democratic tradition and voted for Donald Trump. Now a registered Republican, he's going to do it again this year. It's not that Hill, a resident of Greenville, Kentucky, loves the New York real estate mogul and all he stands for. He's well aware of Trump's legal problems, and I don't like his rhetoric. But Hill, 57, believes the Democrats and Biden in particular simply haven't paid enough attention to communities like his. Am I a huge Trump fan? No. But I just haven't seen the country go in the right direction under Joe Biden, said Hill, whose town in Muhlenberg County has a population of about 31,000. Personally, I don't think Biden is in touch with rural America. A new poll of likely rural voters suggests Americans living outside cities and suburbs favor Trump above all his competitors, both Republican and Democratic. That support is lukewarm, though. Only a slim majority of rural Trump supporters polled said they would be very happy if he were at the top of the GOP ticket, according to the poll of 2,500 Americans conducted Jan. 5 to 10 by researchers at Maine's Colby College. And nearly a third of those Trump supporters say their vote is really against Biden, believing the president has ignored their issues during his time in office. Mr. Sullivan underscored during the meeting that the United States and the PRC are in competition, but the United States does not seek conflict or confrontation, and there are areas of cooperation in the relationship, a senior administration official said Saturday. But China's military moves over the past 24 hours could complicate hopes for cooperation. China's approach to Taiwan, which it considers its territory, is a sensitive sticking point in its precarious relationship with the U.S., which believes in Taiwan keeping its self-governing status. The contentious issue comes up at nearly every U.S.-China meeting, including the high-profile talks between President Joe Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping in November. During their two-day meeting in Bangkok on Thursday and Friday, Sullivan and Wang talked about reopening military-to-military communications, curbing the flow of fentanyl, and mitigating the risks of artificial intelligence. Sullivan also reiterated the U.S. stance on maintaining the status quo of Taiwan's sovereignty. But China has repeatedly rebuffed the U.S. position and has been vocal about its intention to reunify Taiwan with the mainland. China's military pressure on Taiwan comes during what senior administration officials have called a period of higher tension. Taiwan voters recently elected Democratic Progressive Party candidate Lai Ching-te to be their next president. Lai was China's least favorite candidate due to his support of maintaining Taiwan's status quo. Ahead of that election, the U.S. prepared for a range of responses from China. Anytime we're heading into a period of higher tension, there are, of course, always contingency conversations in the U.S. government, a senior administration official said at the time. I don't want to get into specifics on those, but of course, we have to be prepared and thinking through any eventuality, ranging from no response to the higher end. International Middle East developments escalating Israel-Hezbollah tensions. In a significant development in the Middle East, the Israeli government under Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is reportedly on the brink of declaring war on Hezbollah. This potential declaration comes amid escalating military activities along the Israel-Lebanon border. Preparation and military movements. Recent reports indicate that Israeli forces have been intensifying their military preparations. This includes a large-scale medical exercise aimed at dealing with mass casualty situations, which suggests readiness for a high-intensity conflict. The Israeli army has also completed extensive training exercises in northern Israel, focusing on combat readiness and confrontation with Hezbollah. Recent incidents. The rising tensions have been marked by a series of incidents. There were multiple rocket alerts in northern Israel, along with a barrage of heavy missiles impacting several areas. Additionally, a Hezbollah Birkin rocket reportedly landed on a room in the Zeret barracks, housing Israeli troops. Hezbollah's activities. On the other side, Hezbollah has shown signs of gearing up for conflict. The Lebanese militant group conducted a large military exercise, simulating an attack on Israeli tanks. This has raised concerns about Hezbollah's preparation for a possible ground operation against Israel. Regional implications. The situation is unfolding in a region already fraught with instability. The potential conflict between Israel and Hezbollah is likely to have far-reaching consequences, impacting not just Lebanon and Israel, but potentially drawing in regional and international players. Global concern. The international community is closely monitoring these developments. Any escalation between Israel and Hezbollah could lead to a broader regional conflict, with implications for global peace and security. The situation remains fluid, with both sides appearing to prepare for a possible escalation. The world watches as these developments unfold, hoping for a resolution that avoids further conflict in an already volatile region. In recent developments, there has been a notable uptick in military exercises and deployments around the world, signaling a period of heightened military alertness and strategic maneuvering among global powers. NATO exercises in Eastern Europe. NATO is conducting its largest military exercise since 1988 in Eastern Europe, a clear response to ongoing regional tensions. This massive exercise includes deployment of tanks, Bradley fighting vehicles, and other heavy military equipment, demonstrating NATO's readiness and commitment to defend its member states. Activity in the Red Sea region. The Red Sea region has observed unusual military movements. These include reported attacks on U.S. bases in eastern Syria and armed drone strikes on other U.S. air bases in the region, with Iranian proxies in Iraq claiming responsibility. The significance of these movements is underscored by an attack on the British jet fuel tanker Martin Luanda by a Houthi missile, which led to the crew abandoning ship due to a massive fire. U.S. military reconnaissance in Asia. The U.S. has dispatched special reconnaissance planes to Okinawa, Japan. These planes are responsible for providing intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance directly to the U.S. President and the Joint Chiefs of Staff. The relocation of one of these highly specialized aircraft is an indicator of the U.S. military's heightened state of readiness in the Asia-Pacific region. Implications for global security. These developments point to a complex global security environment where major powers are engaging in significant military posturing and preparation. The NATO exercises reflect ongoing concerns in Eastern Europe, possibly related to Russian activities in the region. Meanwhile, the situation in the Red Sea highlights the continued instability in the Middle East, particularly involving Iran and its proxies. Potential for escalation. The strategic deployment of U.S. reconnaissance assets to Japan could be related to multiple scenarios, including the tensions involving North Korea, China, and Taiwan. The concentration of military activities in these key regions raises concerns about the potential for escalation and conflict.